So sitting here again with Unmani. It's been 1.5 years when we met first.
Mm-hmm.
And anything changed in the meanwhile?
Loads of things, and nothing. So, yeah, like anybody, life situations come and go, and lots of changes.
But in the way you express this message, anything changed?
And that certainly is changing all the time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's a living thing.
Absolutely. I noticed that as soon as it starts to get stagnant in any way, there's a feeling of wanting to change it, and it changes naturally also, depending on the people who are there and the kinds of questions and things that people are bringing up.
Yeah. There once was a teacher in the Netherlands called Alexander Smith. I just showed you a picture of him who is standing here, and he said, I don't want any recordings being left for a couple of years. It has to be a living teaching. But what should we do with this interview in a couple of months? Should we erase
it?
Yeah? Or does it still have value, or is it maybe outdated? How does that work?
Well, I mean, it depends what kind of value you're hoping to get from anything, really. You know, this interview or anything is not going to necessarily, you know, make you enlightened and
have an effect.
Have a major effect on your life. It might, who knows? But it doesn't have to do anything like that, because it, you know, actually, all that I'm ever pointing to in any of my meetings or retreats is what is always present. So that is never outdated, that original message. But then, of course, the expression and the content, the flavour, the choice of words, that's always changing.
But you could say yesterday's paper is old, and the stuff they wrote in the Upanishads is, after all those 1,000 years, still fresh and new.
Yeah.
Is it because it points to that, or?
Well, yeah, what is being pointed to is only ever fresh. But of course, even if it's heard right now fresh, it can be still interpreted by thought, by the thinking, and labelled as some kind of belief system and concepts to hold on to.
Yeah. So,
you know, it really depends how it's heard.
Isn't it also that when I look at this interview in let's say in a half year, I notice a lot of other things that I didn't notice before?
Yeah, it's possible. But yeah, I remember when I first heard this expression from the teacher that I was with in India, Delano, and she made us actually listen to a recording of each meeting 3 times before the next session. And at first, when I heard her say that, I thought, oh, that's going to be really boring. But actually, I found it amazing, because each time I listened to it, I could hear different things, different parts of the expression kind of hit me in different ways and caused insights.
Isn't that the same with great music?
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
it's heard different ways.
When I hear Mama from Genesis or Hotel California by the Eagles, I heard it for the 500th time, and I hear a cowbell. I go, hey,
yeah.
There's a cowbell inside.
Yeah.
So it goes that for all stuff which comes out of that, or?
Yeah. I also see that in the meetings that sometimes the people who've been coming regularly for ages, they've been hearing the message, and some aspects of it they've heard very clearly, but something they haven't quite heard, and then I'll be saying exactly the same thing as I've always said, and suddenly they hear it.
Yeah.
You know, suddenly there's some kind of opening to hear what's being said. So,
could an advice be, don't throw away your old books? You never know when you're going to need them, or what value is still in them? Because sometimes I look for books by Alexander which are not available anymore on this marketplace, it's eBay, and then I see people who throw or sell all their books about this. Any advice on that? What did you do with all the books?
I was never really into the books,
no?
Actually. Although I've written books, but I was never really into reading too many spiritual books, so I didn't have that many to get rid of.
No. But what's the one thing that stuck with you from all? Because I think you must have been a searcher once.
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah. So what was the question? What was the one thing?
What's the one thing that stuck with you from all those years ago? What's the from what your teacher, what your guru said to you? What's the one thing that always you will never forget?
I forget it all.
Yeah.
There's not one thing that I remember and hold into my mind. There's some kind of
Reminder. No, post-it note on the wall.
Not intentionally, of course. Memories do pop up naturally, but there's nothing that I kind of purposely try to hold on to.
Yeah.
I would rather forget everything, every word, because I know it's not about the words. And when it comes naturally, it's a very sweet little gift. But yeah, I would also say that to people listening to my words, that it's not about the words. And at the end of every retreat, after like a week or 10 days together, usually in the last session I end it with saying, forget all the words, forget everything we've said here, because it's not in the words. If you go away thinking that you know some concepts and some words, that's not going to do anything. That's not going to kind of really crack you open, which is what people really are longing for.
Well, maybe for some people it's nice conversation stuff.
Sure, yeah.
They can brag about. You know what I heard last weekend? You don't exist, or stuff like that. Are there people at your satsangs who use pen and paper?
Occasionally, but usually I would discourage that. Yeah,
unless they're making a nice picture of you.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. You give satsangs, but also retreats. There's a retreat coming up in Portugal.
Yeah.
What's the main difference between that?
Between the meetings and the retreats?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, the obvious, so the fact that they're longer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when people come to a meeting, if they've never come before, they're just coming to kind of test the water, to see what it's like. And even if people come regularly to meetings, they're just little tasters each time, and we have a chance to get into some depth if it's like a longer meeting, but when you're there in the same group continuously for a week, or this one in Portugal is 10 days, it's a whole other thing. I mean, we get into things in much more depth. It's a smaller, more intimate group, and people have a chance to come up and have dialogues again and again, so that each time they come up it kind of gets deeper, and another layer of belief is seen through, more recognition.
Not people will go mad after a few days?
Yeah, sure, why not? There's some people that go mad. Yeah. What do you mean by go mad?
Yeah, totally confused. Don't know who they are, what they are, where they are.
Yeah, well, it's possible. I don't remember a specific example of someone being so confused, but it's more that in the first few days it can be a little tough, because a lot of your beliefs are being challenged, and you can be left with nothing to hold on to, and that can be frightening. And perhaps, and some people have said, well, they want to leave at that point, but I mean, obviously I don't keep anyone prisoner, but I do encourage people to stay and ride that wave and go through it. And often when they do, things change a lot. I've seen again and again people go through some really hard times, really looking at some things that they've been terrified to look at.
So it's not a happy, jolly holiday when you visit a retreat?
No, not necessarily, but usually we go through these things, and there can be a lot of clarity, a lot of relaxation about some of these bigger issues. Yeah, and I know to some kind of strict non-dualists this can sound a little bit like therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And although I'm not saying that therapy is like necessarily something that people need to do or not do, I don't have any opinion really about therapy, but what I do enjoy doing with people is pointing to who they are, recognizing that and knowing that is the only real basis for everything, and then in that there's this play of being a human, and part of being a human is that there is pain, there is fear, there's emotions, thoughts, dramas that come up, beliefs, old conditioning, all of that stuff. And I don't want to deny it because it's here. It does happen. And it does seem to cause a lot of pain for people in their daily lives. So even if they recognise who they are, the awareness that they are, still the daily life can be full of all these old patterns. And of course we all long to live in a more free and open way. So we look at these things in the context of recognising who you are. So whatever comes up, it's questioned, who needs that, who is afraid, who, and we kind of bring it together with this recognition. So it's not, so it's kind of different to therapy in that in therapy it would be all about me and my problems, my stories, my conditioning, and improving me. But this is continually undermining me,
the me,
the me,
yeah.
And yet seeing that those patterns do play out as if there is a me. So, and those patterns do seem to have a role of kind of trying to protect me.
Mm-hmm.
And in seeing that there is no me, those patterns have a chance to relax their need for protection.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a kind of different way for these things to be seen through, and they seem to really be seen through for a lot of people. It seems to be something
That happens.
that happens, yeah, very
But
beautifully.
Is there a risk in visiting a retreat? Apart from changing and not believing the me story anymore, is there other people it may be not suitable for? People who are, let's say, people who are suicidal, should they visit a retreat, or do you say no? First, go to a therapist, because you sometimes hear the story that when there's a very disturbed me or ego or stuff like that, it first has to get into normal proportions before you can, before it can dissolve. Any
Well, I
commentary?
find that people come to my retreats when they feel that they're ready for it.
Yeah.
So usually they don't. I mean, occasionally someone might ask me whether they should come, but they usually can discern themselves.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't encourage people to always look to me for the answers. They know themselves what they're ready for. I describe my retreats on the website and in interviews like this, so people know what they're going to let themselves in for. And
so there's no Unmani gift box with someone gets for his birthday. Oh, look what you got! You got the Unmani retreat in Portugal for 10 days. No, it's always out of.
Yeah, and I would encourage people to first come to a meeting before they come to a retreat. Although it's not always possible, but at least to watch some videos on YouTube, something like that, so that they have a good idea of what they're coming for. I sometimes even say, only come if you're ready to die. If you're ready to lose everything that you've ever believed in.
Yeah.
And that can seem terrifying for people. So as you can imagine, these retreats aren't that full, but it's full of people that are really genuinely willing to lose their old belief systems.
And would I be a coward when I'll wait until I've lost everything and then come to a retreat?
Well, you would come or not come as you feel to.
Yeah. But I think like people who own big businesses, it goes down the toilet and they lose their wife, their job, the whole thing. And they think, well, I'm down at the bottom, I might as well go to a retreat. Or ever have those kind of people at a retreat?
Yeah, I've had all kinds of people.
Yeah.
It's often people who have come through some kind of spiritual background, but sometimes it's just people who haven't had that much of a spiritual background and have had a pretty tough life, like a and now a very good friend of mine. We met several years ago. She came to one of my first retreats in Portugal. So she came as a cook, and she just answered the advert for a cook, and she'd never had any interest in anything spiritual, or she had no idea about non-duality or anything like that. And she came to a lot of the meetings, even though she was cooking at the retreat. And she'd had a very tough life with her upbringing and all kinds of abuse kind of stories. And she came to the meetings and was completely touched by this message and by the simplicity of it. And then she started coming even a couple of times a year to different retreats, sometimes cooking and sometimes just as a participant. And she often felt kind of a little bit lost with some of the language that some people use, this kind of very non-dual conceptual kind of language, and she didn't really understand what that was about. But I always used to try and make it to put it in language that she could relate to, and her life has changed completely. She used to see herself as this kind of poor me, like, oh, such a victim, and now she's a different person, just glowing and recognising her own strength and vulnerability, and without having to believe these kind of protection stories. It's very sweet.
Yeah. People ask you questions about everything, I guess, and aren't there sometimes people in the audience who refer to, like, Second World War, and they say to you, well, what about the Second World War? Has this ever happened?
Oh.
And what do you say when someone asks this kind of big question out of history?
Yeah, I mean, it's really challenging. It's challenging the concepts of non-duality. Not really recognising what it's really pointing to. You see, a question like that, because what we're really pointing to is the fact that there is only this now, and anything else is a memory, is a story. Although it seems to have happened, right now, actually, all we really know is the sensation that we feel right now. Fly, and yeah. And so a question like that is coming from conceptual understanding of it. And of course, it sounds crazy to say that the past never happened and the future's not going to happen, that there's no time at all, in fact. It's not logical, it doesn't make sense in the normal way of looking at life. But
you don't deny anything. You don't deny anything.
Don't deny anything. Well, I deny lots of things.
Yeah, but I mean, in this kind of way, you don't deny that there was such a thing as Second World War, or maybe there is a chance of a Third World War, or.
But like I said, that's just coming from the conceptual way of looking at things. So that's how I would answer it. So it's about I would undermine the question itself rather than actually answering it, because it's not, no matter what answer I give, it's going to be another concept for the person.
Yeah, but some of your colleagues are as harsh. Just say it never happened.
Yeah, that's one way of answering it, and I might answer that sometimes.
Yeah.
It depends on the person, but as I said, it's a conceptual question that I would enjoy rather to undermine the question itself.
Could you say that if 5 different people ask the same question, your response would be different?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Is it like a vibration going on, or how does that work?
Yeah, it seems to just be a spontaneous responding to whatever is there. The format of the meetings is that people come up to the front and sit with me and have a dialogue like that, and everybody else is listening. I could say one thing to this person in front of me, and something completely different if the next person comes up. So.
Thank God that there are not like hundreds of people at your retreat then, because I think it would exhaust you.
Well, they are pretty exhausting, these retreats. Yeah,
because it's not you standing in front of an audience and giving your message and then maybe 20 minutes for some questions and then go swim in the pool.
No, not at all.
No, it's
It's very intimate and very personal attention. Everybody gets very personal. Yeah.
It's almost like a small intimate relationship with everyone.
Yeah. That's why, in a way, it's risky to come to a retreat, because you actually get what you want. You know, you get what you're looking for. It's not like you can sit at the back and hide for the whole retreat and just listen to the words. But you know, if you're searching and you genuinely want to find what you're looking for, then you know, that's what we do. That's what we're exploring and investigating, the reality and the truth in these concepts and beliefs. So yeah, it's for people who are genuine. It's not for people who just want to play with concepts.
So what about men who are visiting your retreats, and it almost sounds like an intimate dinner with candlelight. I think it could be when I'm talking to you and I'm sharing my deepest fears, and you bring relief, or relief happens, or whatever you want to call it, and suddenly I think, wow, this is the one. This is the one for me. And how does that work at retreat? Are there rules for that? That you say, well, first of all, I'm not going to engage me to any of you. You know what I mean? It could easily be called a love affair.
Yeah, it could be. Except you know, it's in the context of in the meeting sessions. Of course, we also have some social time.
Yeah, you eat together.
Yeah, we have also other activities in the retreats, kind of fun things with dance and all that. Yeah, and it's often we build up some nice relationships, connections, friendships.
Yeah. So you have some friends. You met some friends at retreats.
And people also come again and again to retreats because it's such a nice social kind of atmosphere as well as a continual exploration into these beliefs.
Did you ever meet the love of your life at a retreat?
I've met lots of loves.
Yeah. Just thinking about that, people relax in your presence, or however you want to call it. So, and maybe at retreats people met, and you know that they're now getting married or stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a couple actually who met at my retreat in Portugal 2 years ago. And they got together, and a couple of weeks later she was pregnant. They're still together, and now that she's pregnant with a second baby, I think it's 2 or 3 years later.
They're going to get married.
Yeah, well, they're living together long term. We don't need to get married.
Yeah.
They're very much in love. And
they ask you as a bridesmaid.
No, they're not getting married. So.
No.
Yeah,
anything.
They're very happy.
Yeah.
And other couples as well.
Yeah.
Several others. Yeah.
Any new stuff you're about to bring out? Books, DVDs, CDs?
I'm writing a third book. It's taking a little bit of time, but so nothing that I'm about to bring out really. And there's always new YouTube clips, but the book will probably take a little bit longer. Yeah.
So anything you want to ask me?
I don't know. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing fine. I love talking about this subject, but talking about it is not enough, right?
Yeah.
Or any advice for people who love to listen to tapes, read books, watch YouTube clips, been to a couple of seminars, or how do you want to call it, satsangs, like me, and when you're sitting at a satsang, yeah, you're totally in what is, and totally blissful about sitting on a chair and doing nothing, but yeah,
just sitting on the chair is often the example teachers use.
Yeah, Jeff uses it. But then you get out and you see your car. Okay, you get in the car, you're still blissful, and then driving through Amsterdam, and suddenly a guy on a scooter, and then you're back into the he shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You know, that, and I see this thing going on. He shouldn't have done that. Okay, well, why shouldn't he have done that? You know, does it have anything to do with me? You know, you start to reason like that. Is that a thing you often hear, that people, when they're at the retreat, at the satsang, okie dokie, but when they get out of...
Yeah, so people often come with that question about, it comes and goes.
Yeah.
It being the experience of bliss or peace or recognition. But actually, it's the experience that they're talking about is a temporary experience and not actually who they really are, because who they really are doesn't come and go and is not an experience. So it's simply a confusion, a misconception. So what I emphasize, especially in retreats but also in meetings, is that it's not about an experience. That experiences naturally do come and go out of control. We can't control the experience. And so while a nice blissful experience is here, great, enjoy it. And naturally it will go. And when it does, it doesn't mean that you've lost anything, because you never actually had anything in particular. It was just a passing experience that was happening in you.
Yeah.
And that's the point.
How do you recognize the difference between seeing it and this blissful experience of sitting on a chair and being cheerful, blissful, everything okay?
Well, it's recognizing that is happening kind of on the movie screen. Any experience, even the experience of now sitting here talking, is appearing on in the movie. And who I am, who you are, is that is noticing it, watching it, aware of it.
Never in conflict with it.
Never in conflict, or never particularly touched by it. Never disturbed by anything that happens. Even if you have absolute bliss, who I am is just noticing it. So who I am is not in bliss, or in pain or fear or anything. It's just aware of it. And it can seem a little bit disappointing for seekers who have been chasing the most amazing blissful experiences, because actually this awareness of everything that happens is very ordinary. It's always been here. And it's nothing new, it's nothing special. It doesn't depend on a fancy blissful experience. It's just here, always.
So it has no qualities.
No qualities at all. And so for seekers that can be disappointing.
Yeah.
You want something special. For me.
Yeah. You want something everlasting, an everlasting love, feeling of, yeah.
Yeah. And so naturally, if you recognize who you are, then and the experiences come and go in that, well, you're not so surprised when a blissful experience changes. It's like, yeah, that's the nature of life.
Should I kill the fly, or?
That's right. Does it disturb who you are?
No, I'm fascinated by it, but my attention gets from you to the fly, and then...
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Give some attention to the fly.
Yeah, the fly needs attention. Maybe we should open the window, and then if you want to talk a little more in the second part,
Sure.
I'll put the pause button. We're not, dear viewers, we're not going to kill the fly. We're going to let it loose. So sitting here with Unmani for the second part of our little talk here. This thing everybody's searching for, or everyone who's involved in this. Do you call it enlightenment? What do you call it?
Well, I don't normally use that word, but obviously people who come to the meetings use all kinds of spiritual concepts like that. I would maybe call it recognizing who you are. Sometimes I talk about waking up out of the dream of the belief in me, or the belief in that the play of separation is really all that there is, that there's only separation. Yeah, because
enlightenment gives you a sense of, wow,
yeah,
it's going to be a big bright light, and I'm going to see everything's going to taste better, and I'm going to see life for what it is. And
and it also usually is understood to mean some kind of special experience for me.
For me.
I'm going to be an enlightened person, personally, and then I'll be really special, and everyone else will acknowledge me for that.
Yeah. And I can also give satsangs and earn lots of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. But denying this me, this person, that's not the way, right? Or
No, I wouldn't deny the kind of humanness or the felt sensations and emotions that are there, and thoughts as well. They all play out. It's just that when you actually stop for a moment and look for an actual me that is somehow in control or owning whatever happens, you won't find one. I mean, you only find a thought that assumes that there's a me, that insists, me. Yeah, so it's a kind of strange paradox in a way that even though you look and you can't find a me, these beliefs still play out as if there is a me. And for a lot of people who are searching, this paradox doesn't seem to make sense, and usually means that people continue searching because they think that they haven't got it yet, if they still have these beliefs that play out. But I would actually say that in recognising who you are, not all of these beliefs fall away all at once, and if they play out, it doesn't mean that you've lost anything, because they are appearing on that movie screen, in you, in who you really are. So they don't mean anything about who you are. And if there's a belief in a me, it doesn't mean that there really is a me, because any time you check whether there is a me, there isn't one.
so it's just a belief.
It's just a belief,
Yeah.
and seeing it just as a belief appearing in you, well, it's not such a big deal.
Yeah. So you sometimes feel like a me?
Well, the beliefs or stories come up, yeah, but they're never believed to actually mean that there really is a me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the word me is used, and the various sensations or emotions with a story about what happens for this me here, apparently, do play out. But there's no problem with that. It's just life's entertainment.
So you wouldn't see Unmani as the first running to the buffet because she's afraid she won't get a full plate of food. Like that's for me an example that you see people at a party or something and the buffet is still closed. Or how do you call it in English? Buffet? Yeah. And then suddenly someone blows the whistle and people start running because they're afraid they're not gonna get the fresh food. Or
Right. Yeah.
is that something that is really something the me believes in, that I have to get it for me, I have to get it first, I have to get the biggest piece of pie? Or is that something that never will happen again in your...
I wouldn't say never about anything.
No.
Yeah, I mean, those kind of survival mechanisms are welcome to play out, because sometimes they're necessary.
Yeah.
Sometimes, the nature of thought and this belief in me that appears sometimes is to kind of protect this body thing. So, and thought will do anything sometimes in order to protect that body if it felt that there's a threat.
Mm-hmm.
So those things are welcome to play out. Thought does a very good job of trying to protect the body sometimes. Sometimes, yeah, it can be a little bit over the top, but it does its best to...
So it's always good intentions, you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's important to see thought like that. That it's not the enemy, it's not the bad guy that needs to be got rid of, but actually to see the nature of it.
It has good intentions.
Yeah, it's really trying to help, actually. It's trying to protect the body, it's trying to make sure that that there's survival of what it believes is me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it can be kind of useful at times, but it's about seeing the nature of it, seeing, well, thought has a certain job, it's also very useful at technical, practical things, and...
no enemy. I don't have to get rid of my thoughts.
No, and even if you... well, I mean, the point is you can't anyway, You try to get rid of thoughts, but actually the thought that says I should get rid of my thoughts is just another thought, and it's trying to get rid of thoughts for me. again, because it imagines if I got rid of all my thoughts, then my personal experience would be better. But then who cares? Who is the one that even cares about my experience? The me again, the belief in the me.
So you could say that what I am doesn't mind. That's a good one, but doesn't mind that there's a person who's complaining all the time.
No, yeah. Who I really am is just noticing it all. You know, whether there's a lot of thought or pain or fear or any kind of drama or sensation or problem, who I am doesn't actually care. I mean, it's not a kind of cold caring of like, you know, suffer, but it's noticing it happen, seeing that actually it doesn't actually touch who I really am, as much as it might completely touch this body, and that everything is fully felt. So it's not a kind of detached place, but it's seeing that it's not actually happening to me. It's happening in me.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Not happening to you, to me, but happening as me, or
also as me. Yeah, yeah. In fact, there's no separation between that is noticing and that it's happening to. You know, it's just that it's not the story of me. So it's not happening to the me that I think I am, but it's happening to who I really am.
And that won't be affected by it.
No, and yet plays as if it is affected. It's that crazy paradox that isn't logical.
Because otherwise, it's like watching a movie and you don't get involved with the characters and don't feel with them. And
yeah, well, the character in the movie is fully involved in this movie. You know, she might cry, she might scream, or feel stuff. You know, but who I am is always just noticing it. And it's that simultaneously, and it's only in the words now as we try to describe this that it seems like two different things. But actually, if we could say all those words all at once, it would be better, because actually it's all happening simultaneously, and we're actually talking about one thing.
No duality.
Yeah.
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 So at retreats, do people sometimes look at you with little suspense, or how you call it, like, oh, let's see how she acts. Yeah. She acts differently. Then, oh, look, she's the first to take she took the biggest piece of the pie. Well, she couldn't be enlightened. She takes the biggest piece of pie.
Well, I mean, that's what I kind of enjoy at retreats, because people get to see me more than just at a meeting, and they get to see how actually I'm kind of ordinary, you know,
sunbathing,
ordinary things, sunbathing, or taking a walk, or you know, having breakfast when I'm just waking up and I'm not feeling that awake yet, and they see me more as a an ordinary person, and that I'm not kind of somehow up on this pedestal.
Yeah. No guru things going on.
No.
Like Osho, who drove with his big Rolls Royce, and then people started cheering and dancing. And
well, we do some cheering and dancing sometimes.
Yeah, but not for the guru. No.
No.
But there are some people who say there should be distance between the one who is talking about this and expressing it, and the people who are just getting a hang of it or something.
Well, there's a certain distance in terms of like just kind of protecting this body a little bit, because when I first started holding meetings and retreats, I would make no difference and just hang out with people afterwards, and as if they were friends, and but I found it very exhausting. There weren't boundaries between what we talk about in the meetings and what we talk about outside the meetings, and so now I'm a little bit more careful with that, just because it can be completely exhausting. So I usually, like after the meeting, I will say, let's not talk about the same stuff, because it's, I need a break. So or I'll just go.
There surely are people in your life who you never ever talked about this stuff with. Maybe family or friends.
Yeah.
But they know that you travel through Europe. What do they ask you? What do you tell those people? Well, you have to say something. What does the normal society think you are doing?
Well, some people think that I'm giving lectures. and that's kind of easier.
About your books.
About my
Oh,
books,
yeah.
or I'm an author or something, yeah, which is also true. It's just it gets a little bit tricky when they ask me what I'm talking about or what I'm writing about. But depending on who it is, because sometimes someone who seems like they're not that interested can actually turn out to have some kind of opening to this. So it depends on who I'm talking to. But sometimes I'll just say, I write or speak about life. And sometimes if there is some kind of opening to hear this, then I'll perhaps say, it's pointing to what is beyond who you think you are.
Yeah.
And if they ask again, maybe, if they ask more, then I'll speak a little bit more. But I'll never push it onto anybody, because actually what we're talking about is losing your whole life. It's completely devastating if you really hear it. So, in a way, I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
You wish you...
I wouldn't wish it on anybody, in a way.
And on yourself? Do you, in
late.
retrospect?
I always knew this as a child.
Yeah?
So I never had a kind of before, really. But
how do you know as a child? How did you know?
It was always obvious to me that everything that was happening in life was kind of wasn't real, or it was just a movie, just playing out.
One big play.
Yeah, I never believed that she was a real person or a separate person. And obviously, growing up, I learnt how to interact and be, kind of play out as if I was a separate person. But it never felt right, and I was very depressed and suicidal for years because it just didn't feel right to play that game.
Was it difficult, like the teenage years when you at high school and stuff like
difficult.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't participate in all that have to have the new Nike shoes and stuff like that, or...
Yeah, well, I didn't know how. I mean, and I was longing to fit in with people and be normal in a way. I just saw myself as abnormal. And I tried different ways to fit in with people, and I always felt like a complete outcast. Very strange person. Everyone thought I was strange. But in time, over the years, I've also seen that was a kind of victim story. It was a bit of an insecure story about that. It was actually a me story that had come up as if there was a me, and it was a kind of survival mechanism, because I didn't know how to be in this world of no me.
How was that diagnosed when you were a teenager? Did they put a label on it?
They, as in...
And maybe even parents or people at school or teachers say, well, she has this, or she has this, or she acts like this.
Well, I mean, I was, I guess, just classed as a very depressed teenager.
Yeah?
I didn't really speak about it very much. My parents tried to send me to a therapist, but I didn't really go then until... I went a little bit later to a therapist for a while, but I never found that helped.
And what was the first thing you found in the world? You said, "Ha! I'm not that crazy. Look."
Well, when I went travelling, and I went to India, and I started a little bit of the spiritual search. I never really did too many spiritual practices. I did quite a lot of meditation for a while, but and with that I found some clarity. More and more, just seeing thought for what it is, seeing through my beliefs about myself. But then when I went to Delano in Pune, in India, she was describing what I already knew. And it was the first time I'd heard anyone ever say this before. I was shocked that it's possible to say it out loud.
What you always knew.
Yeah.
But it's true that you had to do a lot of, how do you call it? Write letters and stuff to even get to the satsang with her. Or it's not something that you buy a ticket for.
No, you have to write to her or email her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have to do a lot of work before you could?
Not a lot of work,
No?
but I was lying in bed with a broken leg. I think I probably told you this story last time we met. But I'd just been in a therapy group and trying to kill my mother and father. not really, yeah, psychologically. And I'd broken my leg in the catharsis part of the workshop, and I was really even more depressed. And I wrote to her, to Delano, and I said, I'm so depressed and I've broken my leg and I'm ready to die. I said, I think I'm ready to die. And she wrote back saying, write to me when you're sure you're ready to die. So, I waited a few more days and went even more crazy. And then wrote to her again saying, now I'm sure. And then I went.
Wouldn't that be a good tool for your satsangs also, that people first have to do an intake? Because I can imagine that there's a lot of people coming to a satsang who are just interested in hearing it and the nice experience, like a movie, and then they go away again and
yeah. Well, it's been an interesting journey in the last I don't know how many years I've been doing this, maybe 10 years or something. That when I first started, I had a few. There were a couple teachers that had been quite a big influence on me, and so when I first started, it was quite natural that the expression was certainly influenced by Delano and some others. But over the years, as I've been doing this more, a different kind of expression has come, and more of a sense of what feels right for me, to express and my way with people, because Delano, for example, she's quite tough with people, which for me at that time was perfect, but it doesn't suit everybody. And it doesn't suit me to be that tough all the time. It doesn't feel so good for me physically. So sometimes I am very tough with people, and sometimes not so tough and quite gentle. So for me it feels more natural for it to be kind of spontaneously, however it is, with responding to each person.
Is it more suitable for people from Holland and Belgium and Germany and instead of people from America? Is there like a barrier between? Do you feel no?
No,
it's universal.
I have people who come from. I go to America as well, or Australia, and
so it has nothing to do with where you come from, the conditioning,
No, I mean, of course, people have similar conditioning all over the world, similar stories that play out, obviously in different accents and
ever been
different culture.
Yeah, but ever been to China with this message? Or?
No, not been to China.
Or
India.
India. Yeah. Japan, maybe?
I've been to Japan, but not
no.
Not to teach.
I'm curious if people there.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
How they respond to this message. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.